UFC 323. This is the weigh-in recap show. We're going to take a look at each fighter on the scale after they rehydrated, take a look at the face-offs, ultimately locking in the picks. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and let's get the video underway. Now, starting the card off, we got Muhammad Naimov taking on Myron Santos. I have been picking Myron Santos all week. Does the miss weight concern me a little bit? Yes, I'll be honest. Myron Santos, I do think, is the better striker. Naimov can mix in the wrestling. He's not really that, elite at it, I will say. Can utilize some spinning attacks here, spinning wheel kicks. Does like to go to that at times. I feel as though Santos is a little better on the feet, more precise with his shots. But I will say, him missing weight, it does concern me a little bit. I know his last fight was up at 155 against Sadiq Youssef, and I never thought, even when he did fight at 145 against Francis Marshall, I never thought he was, the most cut, fit guy anyway. So him moving up to 155 definitely seemed like something that I thought he was going to stay, the weight that he was going to stay at, but him dropping back down clearly shows that there's a, dietary issue. I don't know what is going on, but I hope he, gets it figured out pretty soon, because I believe he was struggling to make weight in that Khan Ofley fight, if I'm not mistaken. No, yeah, I am mistaken. But I know he's been struggling on the scale for quite some time now. At least his run in the UFC. Made weight the last 2 attempts, but I remember it being a problem. Him coming in a little overweight here doesn't concern me that much, but I will say, being as dejected as he looked on the scale when he did weigh in does concern me just a little bit. But I am going to remain on the Santos side. I do think he's the better striker out of the two. I do think he can defend the takedowns if Naimov does present that to him. And I think he'll just lean cleaner. I do believe this fight goes to a decision. And I'm going to trust Santos here. Like I said, I do think he's a better striker. I'm going to trust him even with the weight miss. Let's get to the scale. You can see Santos here on the scale. Like I said, he's always been, pretty flat. The little butter boy. That's what I used to call him. Didn't make weight. I was about to say made weight, no issues, but clearly overweight. I'm going to trust him here. I think he's all right. I think he'll, still put on a decent performance. Here's Naimov. Made weight, no issues. 146 came in. Obviously, he's in a better shape. Naimov's a pretty solid prospect, though. I don't think he's like trash or anything. I don't see Santos knocking him out. What I do see is this fight being, a solid 3-round striking affair. Naimov getting his, takedowns defended. I'm going to lean Santos. And they got him as a pretty wide favorite, minus 235. I would have thought the line would have dropped a little bit, with the weight loss. But I do think Santos gets it done by decision, which sits at Santos decision minus 115. So yeah, not the craziest thing ever. I do believe the over 2.5 is live, obviously. So I'm gonna go with Santos. I'm gonna trust him with the weight miss. Let's get to the next fight. We got Mansour ABDUL-MALIK taking on Antonio TRÓCOLI. The pick all week has been Mansour. I am picking Mansour. TRÓCOLI, I believe his birthday will be fight day, or I believe he just turned 35. Yes, he's also pretty heavy. I won't call him a gambling addict, but he does play poker primarily. If you go on his Instagram, it's nothing but poker. I'll show it to you guys right now if I could. Yeah, dude has not been focused on fighting for quite some time. Let's see if it'll load for us. Yeah, nothing but, you know what I'm saying? Just straight poker. I don't think TRÓCOLI is going to put out a decent showing for himself. I think he has a poker tournament actually scheduled a couple hours after the fight too. So I think he's going to go in there and, get finished pretty early and finish out his night the way that he wants to celebrate his birthday by winning some money doing poker. It won't be by winning a fight, I can tell you that much. Mansour, good athlete, good wrestling. I like how he switched up. His team too is over. I think he's over. He was training at Fight Ready for this fight camp. I think Mansour ABDUL-MALIK is live to finish him within the first 5 minutes. That's what I expect. Does it happen? I'm not sure. Hopefully he doesn't pull off, a Bysinger Sirsakeov like what he did with Eric McConaughey. but I'm going to trust Mansour in this spot. I do think he finishes TROCOLI early. First round should be the method of victory for Mansour. I wouldn't be surprised if a submission came either. And we'll look at that submission prop when we get to the odds as well. Here's TROCOLI on the scale. Big, tall Brazilian. If you aren't familiar with him, I believe he's Mackenzie Dern's ex. But yeah, dude he's in good shape. But again, I don't think he's beating Mansour ABDUL-MALIK. I think he's going to get crushed within the first 5 minutes. Here's Mansour. I will say he does look a lot slimmer than what I've seen when I seen him against Brundage. I'm trying to remember if that fight was at 205 or not. I don't think it was. I think that was the mechanical fight. But he does look a lot slimmer. Looks like he's been, in some pretty good conditioning camps. I think Mansour gets it done pretty easily. Let's get to the face-off. I don't think I showed the face-off for NAIMOV and SANTOS, but SANTOS was a little on the scale, pouting a little bit. Butter boy, sad face. Still rocking with SANTOS, like I said. And then here is TROCOLI and Mansour. You can see the height advantage for TROCOLI. I think Mansour is going to be able to control him. I think he's the stronger out of the two, better wrestler, better athlete overall. Rocking with Mansour inside the distance. I do believe, like I said, a submission prop could be live. Heavy ground and pound, open up the neck for TROCOLI trying to get back to his feet. I think that's definitely live. And Mansour via submission is plus 550. So might take a stab at that, might not, depending on. Honestly, I think I'll stay away from that from this fight, but that is something I wanted to look at. I don't think I'll bet it, but I wouldn't be shocked if it happens either. But yeah, Mansour ABDUL-MALIK is the official pick, rocking with him, and he should finish his fight within the first 5 minutes. Next fight, we got Ivo ASLAN taking on Ivo BARANIEWSKI. The pick has been Ivo. I'm rocking with Ivo. I think he's the better striker out of the two. Ivo ASLAN, I think his power is a little overrated, and he doesn't really strike as cleanly as a lot of people rate him. I'm also looking back at, he has a win over Antonio TROCOLI a couple years ago, a year and 8 months ago, where that was a rematch, and he was able to get the knockout in that third round, but he was getting busted up on the feet. And if you're not familiar with, sexy man TROCOLI, he's been getting finished up until that point. I believe he was on a 3-fight knockout loss streak, and Ivo happened to put him out, but he was giving Ivo a tough fight. Had his eye busted up, swollen up, and then I'm just looking at how inefficient Ivo is on the feet. He's getting submitted by Kutalaba 9 months out, staring at Billy Alicana for 3 rounds. I think Ivo has a really powerful straight right. I think he can mix in the wrestling. I think he could take Ivo down, which is one of Ivo's big downfalls as his grappling defense. I think if Ivo is able to control him on the mat, I think he can open up submission opportunities, big ground and pound from him. A lot of his finishes are ground and pound. I do think Ivo BARANIEWSKI is live for a finish. I don't think, the size matters. And when you see them at the ceremonials, you're going to see that it's not that big of a height difference either. I think Ivo is definitely the better fighter out of the two. Ivo looks the part, but I don't think he is as good as people believe him to be. So I'm rocking with Ivo. I think he gets it done. I think submission or ground and pound is definitely live. And I'm going to put my faith in the guy debuting. A lot of guys who debut don't really win quite often, but I think Ivo is a guy who's going to come through and, make a statement. Didn't want to get to the face-off first. I wanted to get to the scales. Here's Ivo. Like I said, dude looks good on the scale, right? He's a pretty, tremendous athlete. Definitely looks like he's in, the best shape that I've seen him so far. But again, I don't think, the physique plays into his skills. I'm a rock with Ivo. And here's Ivo. Dude's a tank, literally. Kind of looks like, like Bruno Ferreira, who's on this card later. We'll speak about that as well, missing weight. But yeah, he's a pretty solid guy. I think he's gonna come in, and I think he's gonna bulldoze Ivo. Honestly, here's the face-off. Like I was speaking about, the height advantage. It's not that significant. 6'3". Yeah, Ivo's listed at 6'3". Ivo listed at 6 feet, but it doesn't really look that different, in my opinion. I think Ivo's gonna be able to take him down, control him, and do a lot of his work there. Is it first round, second round? I'm not sure. I don't predict Evo to, go in and slug with Evo Aslan, because a lot of people don't really win, those type of fights. You could look at, Sakara, TROCOLI, and then, his debut on a Contender Series. I think if he plays it smart, which I do believe Evo has the better IQ out of the two, use the wrestling, use the takedowns, use the control, and use the submission attempts, I think Evo should win inside the distance. So first or second round for Evo is my prediction. Sub or ground and pound. Club and sub is definitely live too. Evo is sitting at -190, plus 165 for Evo. Evo via submission is plus 375, or excuse me, plus 375. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly. I do like that prop. TKO for Evo plus 115, plus 225 if you think Evo gets it done by knockout. What's the over? Over 1.5 plus 161. Yeah, that's definitely testy. I would stay away from the over, because this fight definitely could end early. Both of these guys are primarily finishers. We only got the one decision loss in the UFC from Evo Aslan, and Evo primarily a finisher, like I stated. But I'm gonna rock with Evo, submission or ground and pound finish. Let's get to the next fight. We got Marvin Vettori, we have Edson Barboza taking on Jalen Turner. I have been picking Jalen Turner all week, and seeing him on the scale, seeing how locked in he looks, I'm definitely going to rock with Jalen Turner. I think he's live to finish Edson Barboza. Surprisingly, the first round prop for Jalen Turner to finish it, I believe it was -160. We'll take a look at it in a second. But Jalen Turner, the size definitely plays a part into this matchup. I think he is quicker with the boxing. I would say Edson definitely has a quicker kicks. Edson could attack that, that lead leg from Jalen Turner with the low kicks, but I just think Edson Barboza has a really bad reaction to punches nowadays. If you go back and look at that Jakar close fight, he's getting rocked up against the cage. I could see Jalen Turner forcing him on the back foot primarily and catching him with long straight shots. Edson not being able to counter as effectively as he has been in the past. He is getting older. The timing looks to be a little off. And like I said, his punch resistance is definitely going down. He could have been knocked out by Jakar if Jakar was a little bit more accurate with his strikes instead of, trying to bully and bulldoze through Edson. But now we have a precise kickboxer in Jalen Turner who can also mix it up. He does have some submission wins. I don't think he's going to go to the wrestling here. If he does, I wouldn't be completely thrown off, but I think a good 1-2 down the middle might be able to do it for Edson Barboza. He's been clipped in his last 3 fights. Jakar close. Lerone Murphy had him wobbled in that first round a couple of times in their fight, and then Sadiq Yusuf had him nearly out in their fight too. So I can't put my faith in a 40-year-old Edson Barboza who's getting hit left and right, not really reacting to punches the way that I would like him to either. And Jalen Turner, who does look like he's tapped back into fighting. He found God, found what he needed to come back to the fight game. I think that's exactly what he needed to do, and I think that's is going to look good come Saturday night. So I'm rocking with Jalen Turner inside the distance. First round, we'll take a look at the prop, but I'll give Edson a little bit more respect than that. I'll say probably round 2, late round 2, early round 1. Late round 1, early round 2, somewhere around there. But hey, Jalen Turner could pull off like a Kyle Dawkins, come back and start him in the first 30 seconds. That first combination, you never know. But I'm going to rock with Jalen Turner. Here he is on the scales, looking pretty solid, like I said. Jalen Turner used to have, a lot of issues making weight, so for him to come in on point, on weight, definitely is a big green flag in my book. So salute to Jalen Turner here. And here is Edson. Still got that lazy eye issue, not quite sure what's going on, but the dude is in phenomenal shape for a 40-year-old, you know what I'm saying? Always comes to fight, and he's always prepared, but I just think he's going down this time around. And let's get to the face-off between these two. You can see the height advantage for Jalen here. Jalen's what, like 6'4"? We got Edson around like 5'10". I think this is a bad stylistic matchup for Edson. I don't think he's going to pull off, a vintage performance here. I think he's probably going to get his light shut off, and I think retirement should be within reach, especially if he goes cold here. So I'm Going with Jalen Turner inside the distance. And let's get a look at the odds. Turner sitting at minus 415, plus 315 on the money line for Edson Barboza. Definitely widened throughout the week. Yeah, he opened at like minus 220. Minus 415 is a little crazy. Under 1.5, minus 110. Over 1.5, minus 110. Jalen by knockout, plus 110. Turner round 1, plus 135. Okay, it was plus 160. My bad. Turner round 1, plus 135. Turner round 1 KO, plus 225. Round 2 KO, plus 500. I do think he's live for a second round knockout. I just think Edson's punch resistance isn't what it used to be, man. He's taking a lot of damage. I don't think a fight coming back against Jalen Turner is going to be a good option for him. So I'm going Turner inside the distance. I don't think he's going to, I think he's coming back with the intention of proving that he's back, not just going to put on like a 3-round kickboxing match. So I'm rolling with the intention of Jalen Turner trying to find a finish. So give me Turner inside the distance. Next fight, we got Marvin Vettori taking on Bruno Ferreira, who misses weight despite being a 5'10" middleweight. This is kind of crazy. Bruno, I was picking him earlier in the week. Him missing weight, along with Vettori having a better gas tank, along with Vettori being more active in the boxing, along with Bruno relying on one-shot power, it kind of really makes me want to pick flip, and I am going to pick flip to Marvin Vettori. I think I just can't trust Bruno with a bad weight cut against a Marvin Vettori who literally has his back against the wall, 3-fight losing streak. This is a big step down in terms of competition for him. I felt as though if Bruno came in, was locked in 100%, made weight, no issues, and I thought his gas tank looked a little better in that last fight against Petrosian. This is really a hard fight to pick because Vettori kind of turned into like a counterpuncher with no power, and he's not really putting people out. You know what I'm saying? Whereas we got Bruno, who has power, he has jiu-jitsu. I don't know if he's going to be able to hang in there if this fight goes past a round and a half. I could definitely see him suck and win, especially with the bad weight cut. Whereas we got Marvin Vettori, who has elite cardio, who has an elite chin. I just can't rely on Bruno finding the shot with a bad gas tank and a bad weight cut. So I'm going to go with Vettori. I think he picks him apart for about 3 rounds, staying safe, being the more active guy in the boxing range too, utilizing a lot of low kicks, maybe even threaten some takedowns. I don't know if he gets him down, but I could definitely, he could be because, Abus was able to take him down. I think Marvin will be able to get him down now that I'm really thinking about it. Late in that 3rd round is where I see Marvin, utilizing the wrestling, especially if he's going to have the better gas tank. So I'm going to go with Marvin. Probably, decision, maybe unanimous. I wouldn't be crazy. It wouldn't be crazy if it's a unanimous decision. I don't think he's going to finish Bruno because of the bad weight cut. Like I said, Marvin doesn't really have that much power. His last finish was probably like 8 years ago, somewhere around there. I think we're going to get a 3-round decent performance from Marvin Vettori to keep himself alive in the rankings. And, we'll see what's next for Marvin Vettori. He's got some ground to cover, especially with these 3 bad losses. So he should be able to turn back Bruno, keep him outside the rankings. And I'm going to trust him here. Here's Bruno on the scale. You can see how bad he looked, man. Drained. Definitely looked like the weight cut was getting to him, and they stopped him from cutting even more weight. So definitely a tough one for him. Definitely would have, hoped. I was hoping that he was going to make weight, especially with his with the gas tank issues that he has been having. I can't trust him. Here's Marvin. Always makes weight. Always looks good. Dude's, he's solid. Is what it is. Don't really have much to say about Marvin Vettori. And here is the face-off. You see the slight height advantage for Marvin. Bruno was wearing his, the Hulk hands. He had those on. He is looking to Hulk smash, but if he's going to be chasing, for 2 rounds, I don't know if he's going to be able to find that shot. So don't get me wrong. There is a chance for him to find it, but it's going to have to be early. So it's either going to be a early Bruno finish, which is pretty hard on Marvin Vettori, who has a really solid chin, or it's going to be a Marvin Vettori 3-round, pick them apart, stay safe. Marvin is now the favorite, -120, +100 for Bruno. Marvin, let's see what Marvin's decision is. +155, that wouldn't be crazy. Over 1.5, -310. Over 2.5, -175. I would play the over 1.5. What is Bruno KO round 1? Bruno KO is +225. KO round 1, Ferreira +550. If you think he can put it together for 5 minutes and possibly get Vettori out of there, +550. It's not really that enticing to me. If it was, plus 1,200 somewhere around there, then maybe. But +550 isn't enough to make me jump out the window and pick Vettori to get knocked out for his first time ever. So I'm gonna trust Vettori here. I think he keeps Bruno outside the rankings. Next fight, we got Fares Ziam taking on Nazim Sadykhov. Still picking Nazim. I just think he's the dirtier, the grittier fighter out of the two. I think he's going to force Ziam to fight in his range, which is the boxing range. Sadykhov can mix in the wrestling as well. I favor his top pressure. I favor his finishing upside with the submission attempts as well. I think Fares, when you get him underneath you, he can definitely be controlled quite easily. You go back and look at the Mike Davis fight. Mike Davis was able to have some success with the control there. I think he had, I think there was an issue with the food on that fight card. It was him and Brendan Allen, I believe, who talked about it, saying there was an issue with the weight cut and the food or something like that, and they all felt pretty weak, which is why Fares Ziam was able to get that win over him. Mike Davis is a pretty solid fighter. We just saw him get a finish not too long ago as well. But I think Sadykhov is definitely a live dog here. Not really too concerned with the height or the range from Ziam, who primarily likes to keep it at, kickboxing range. I think Sadykhov definitely has more power. I think he's got some really good straight shots too. I think Ziam's jab is decent, but there's times where he does not use his range as effectively as he should, and he does get drawn into, firefights. And I think Nazim will be able to force that out of him, and I favor Nazim in a firefight against Ziam. So I'm going with Nazim. I think he is live for probably a submission, but I wouldn't be shocked by a decision either. So Nazim, decision or submission, is probably going to be my official pick, and I'm a rock with the dog as well. Let's get to the scale. Here's Fares. On the scale, looks pretty good. May weight, no issues. We just don't trust the French. You know what I'm saying? Can't trust no Frenchman, bro. Here's Nazim. May weight, look pretty solid too. Definitely a guy that will fight for your money, and I have to respect that from Nazim. So that's another reason why I'm picking him too. Here's the face-off. You see the slight little height advantage. Definitely looks more pronounced here, but both of them had on sneakers, so we'll see what it looks like in the cage officially. Yeah, this is a tough fight, but I just feel as though Nazim will be able to force the fight to be at his range, and I'm going to trust in him to do that against a guy who doesn't use his range as effectively as he should. So I'm rocking with Nazim. Let's get to the odds. +145 for Nazim, -170 for Fares. Over 1.5, -435. Makes sense. Sadykhov via submission, +850. It wouldn't be that crazy. He lost to Terrence McKinney in the first round by submission. I believe Ziam has, 2 submission losses in the UFC? Terrence McKinney Oh no, it was outside. So Terrence McKinney the only one to get him in the UFC, but Nazim has the ability to, shoot out of a cannon, similar to a Terrence McKinney. Probably not as effectively, but dude is pretty nasty too. So I'm gonna rock with Nazim. I think he gets it done. Submission or decision is the official pick. Let's get to the next fight. We got Maycee Barber taking on Karine Silva. I'm still picking Karine Silva. I think Karine Silva has the slicker stand-up, and I think she can avoid the blitzes from Maycee with longer range weapons. The low kicks are definitely going to be there for Karine. I think the body kicks, teeps down the middle. I think the jab is going to work for Karine. I think she's going to get back to that finishing side that we haven't seen, in her last, 2-3 fights. I think Karine is live for a submission here. I just see it. I see Maycee Barber diving for a takedown, leaving her neck exposed, Karine snatching it up and finishing with a guillotine. It's just screaming at me. Karine Silva via submission. I don't know why. I just have this urge that Maycee Barber, she did look good on the scale, we'll say, coming back from her boob job and the what did she have? The seizure that she had before she was able to walk out and fight Erin Blanchfield. She definitely looks a lot better on the scale, but the way that she fights, she likes to bully people, and I just feel as though that style works on people that don't have the techniques to beat a bully, and I think Karine Silva is a fighter who does have that technique. I think she's cleaner. I think she's more polished. I think she can make it dirtier if she needs to, and I think she has the better power out of the two, too. So I'm going Karine Silva. Like I said, I can see Maycee Barber diving for a takedown, getting her neck snatched up, and Karine Silva being able to finish it. So I'm going Karine Silva via submission as the official pick. And let's get to the scales, why don't we? We got Maycee Barber here. You can see, slight little breasts. She looks good though. She looks good on the scale. Definitely a lot better than what she looked like weighing in for that Erin Blanchfield fight. And here is Karine. Telling you, man, she just looks like literally the tattoo on her neck, a killer. I gotta trust her here. I think she's one of the better dogs on this card. I picked her as a favorite underdog earlier in the week too. I think she's coming back and finding a finish and via submission too. Here's the face-off. You see Karine slightly. I think she's a little bit more cut than Maycee Barber. Slight little height advantage. They're probably about the same though. Once we get in the octagon, no sneakers and all that. Maycee does look like she's in really good shape, but Maycee has a really bad tendency of getting taken down at times. So I think Karine Silva will be able to, reverse position if she needs to, use her jiu-jitsu to her advantage, and I think she's locking up a sub. Let's get to the odds. Maycee minus 205, plus 175 for Karine. Over 1.5, minus 525. Karine via submission, plus 425. If you think Barber wins by decision, minus 110. If you get a split decision, plus 350. I think Karine submission is the way to go in this matchup. Submission or decision, obviously, but I'm really leaning submission for Karine Silva. Get back on her finishing streak, or at least put one, back on her record here, and get her into the top 10. Yeah, I'm gonna trust Karine here. Official pick. Next fight, we got Terrence McKinney taking on Chris Duncan, which apparently there's some weird line movement similar to like that Isaac Dalgarian, Yadier Del Valle fight, but I don't think it's that serious. I'm still rocking with Chris Duncan. I think he can survive the first 3 minutes that Terrence McKinney is going to give him, because we know what Terrence McKinney does, bro. Comes out like a bat out of hell and gives you everything, in a bag of chips in that first round. But once you make it out of that first round, it's downward spiral from there. Every time Terrence McKinney has gone to a second round, he's been finished. Nazim Sadykhov, Esteban Ribovics had kicked him in the first round. loss to Ismail Bonfim via TKO. It's really round one or die with Terrence McKinney. He's very entertaining. I have to admit, he's definitely an entertaining fighter. He's one of my favorite fighters, but he has this one way of fighting where it's all guns straight out the gate. And I just think Chris Duncan is a guy who's able to weather that storm. We saw what he was able to do with Rebecca a couple months ago, a guy who's tough as nails, and they were trading some really good shots. He was able to defend the takedowns. He was able to get his striking going. I think Duncan, don't get me wrong, he has been finished in the first round before. Manuel Torres was able to finish him almost 2 years ago. But I think Manuel Torres is a guy who presents a little bit more dangerous threats than Terrence McKinney. McKinney, like I said, it's all speed, all guns early in that fight. And he doesn't really have that range that Manuel Torres has. This is a pretty even fight, but I'm going to lead Chris Duncan to survive the early storm from Terrence, and I think he gets it done. Round 2, TKO or submission, but definitely Duncan round 2 is my official prediction. Let's get to the scales. Both guys may weight, no issues. Here's Terrence McKinney. Looks to be pretty solid. Like I said, here's Chris Duncan. People were giving him some flack. They were saying at the scale, I watched it live, the scale was moving just a little bit, but he may weight 156. Definitely no, funny business going on or anything like that. And here's the face-off. I really think this is a really good fight. Definitely think this is a hell of a fight for, the last pay-per-view of the year. And I think this is definitely going to be one to not miss. So I'm rocking with Chris Duncan. I'm going to trust him here. I think he survives the storm. I think he gets it done round 2. Chris Duncan minus 125, plus 105. Terrence McKinney. Duncan round 2 is plus 375. That's what I'm going with. If you think McKinney gets it in round 1, plus 170. If you think it's a TKO, plus 275. If you think it's a submission for McKinney, plus 325. The over-under is what? Over 1.5, plus 260. Yeah, don't think so. I think it's going to be early in that second round. So, like I said, Terrence McKinney round. It could even be a first-round finish for Chris Duncan or Terrence McKinney, but I'm going to favor Chris Duncan to be the better guy. Not necessarily the better guy, but the guy to be able to bounce back from, the storm that Terrence McKinney's going to bring him. And I'm going to trust him here. So give me Chris Duncan. Next fight, we got the feature prelim of the night and the lock of the week. Manuel Torres taking on Grant Dawson. I'm rocking with Manuel Torres, man. I have to say my confidence has only grew since hearing Grant Dawson's media day interview. So Grant Dawson's wife is fighting tonight. She probably already fought at the time of this recording. Flying in Saturday morning. And then he also said that if it came down to him and Chris Duncan fighting, he wouldn't fight Chris Duncan because he said he can't beat him. Whereas Manuel Torres just beat Chris Duncan. So if you're saying that you can't beat the guy that you're you can't beat the guy that your opponent has already beat, you think you're going to beat him. I know it's MMA math, but to me, it doesn't sound like it makes any sense. And I got to go Manuel Torres, TKO or submission, honestly. I think Manuel Torres is going to starch him. First clean punch that he lands. Grant Dawson, I cannot overlook the knockout loss to Bobby Green 2 years ago. Granted, he's fought. Who has he fought? Joe Selecki, a grappler. Rafa Garcia. Diego Fiera, 40 years old. Manuel Torres has been tried and tried since, not necessarily his debut, but a motive fight. Hell of a finisher. Chris Duncan fight. Hell of a finisher. Submitted him. He lost to Ignacio. Salute. Ignacio was the better striker. That matchup made some better reads and was able to clip him. Drew Dober. We know what Drew Dober presents. Manuel Torres is a guy who's been through the fire, and he's taken his licks, but he's also been able to give them out too. I think Grant Dawson is going to do exactly what he said. He's going to try and lay and pray, and Manuel Torres is going to hit him with some nasty knees to the body, hit him with some nasty knees to the face, some elbows over the top, straight punches down the middle. I think Manuel Torres is starching Grant Dawson inside of 7 minutes, and I don't think it looks competitive at all. So give me Manuel Torres to burst into the rankings, to find a knockout finish over Grant Dawson, and I'm more confident as the week continues to go on and we get closer to fight day in the lock of the week, Manuel Torres. Let's get to the scale. Manuel looking ripped, shredded, jacked, ready to go. We got Grant Dawson, who needed the box. Came in 156, may weight, whatever, right? But let's get to the face-off. This picture doesn't really tell the full story. Manuel definitely is taller, definitely is longer than Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson is definitely going to be diving for knees. We know what he is, pure wrestler, but I don't think he's going to be able to take Manuel down as easily as he thinks he is. I think Manuel is going to be able to defend the takedowns fairly easily and even reverse position if he wants to. Ground and pound is definitely live, or even just the first shot that he throws, clipping Grant Dawson, and we see Grant Dawson put out. And guess what? I'm doubling down. Plus 210 on Manuel Torres. Are you crazy? Minus 250. Manuel Torres via KO is what? Plus 275. Torres via submission plus 1,000. It's not crazy. I'm telling you. Chris Duncan tried to wrestle, ended up get reversed and got submitted. Plus 1,000 isn't that crazy. Torres inside the distance plus 200. You think Grant Dawson gets it done with a lay and pray and he wins via decision? Plus 375. Over 1.5. Plus 120. So they're expecting this fight to end early. I got to favor the guy who's finishing guys early if they're expecting the fight to end early. And that is going to be Manuel Torres. So, Manuel Torres, TKO, round 1. Let's get to the main card. If you guys haven't already, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We got Jan Blachowicz taking on Bogdan Guskov. I'm picking Bogdan. I like the little hitman gimmick that he had at the press conference on Thursday. I like what he looked like on the scale. I like the striking. I like the power upside. One thing that I have to mention for Jan, his last 3 opponents have been technical kickboxers. Really, since the Glover fight, Alexander Rakic, technical kickboxer. Magomed Ankalaev, technical kickboxer. Poatan, yes, he has the power, but primarily he's a technical kickboxer, and he really just trades, you know what I'm saying? And then we got Carlos Oberg, which we all know what he does. He hasn't fought an explosive combination power puncher in Bogdan Guskov, and I think that's what a lot of people are failing to realize. Yes, he was able to stick it in there, or stick it out with Poatan, but Poatan really doesn't, load up on combinations. He's not bum rushing you. He will find that shot and shut your lights off. Granted, he wasn't able to shut off Jan's, but that's exactly what I'm speaking to. Bogdan, he will blitz you. He will put you down. He will throw combinations. And it's coming from a lot of different angles that a lot of people haven't seen. Yes, Jan has really good low kicks. Yes, Jan can wrestle here, which is something that does concern me, but I think Bogdan will be able to defend the takedowns fairly well. He has looked a lot better since that submission loss to Volkan, 2 years ago. He's been on a streak. He's been putting people out. I think he's going to be able to put Jan out for the first time in his career. It just makes a lot of sense to me. Jan, 42 years old. Like I said, I think he's going to be put on that back foot. I think he's going to be surprised by the explosiveness and the power from Bogdan Guskov. So I'm going with the hitman, Bogdan Guskov, to get it done via knockout. And what a way to open up the main card. Here we go with the hitman, Bogdan Guskov on the scale. Made weight. Looks pretty solid. 206. Looks like a damn evil gremlin. Here's Jan, the 43-year-old. Jan's never, shredded or anything like that. Definitely looks like an old man. Not like he's, droopy or anything like that, but doesn't really give, I'm here to knock you out or anything like that. Here's the face off. Jan was trying to intimidate him, make him, look him in the eyes or anything and stuff like that. But I think that's going to be a bad decision. I think Jan's eyes are going to be, going cross-eyed come fight night. So I'm going with Bogdan to find the finish. And let's take a look at the odds. Bogdan is sitting at minus 115, minus 105. So still pretty much a coin flip on this fight. But Bogdan KO. GUSKOV inside the distance plus 170. Bogdan KO plus 225. Plus 1250 for the sub. But I really favor the KO for GUSKOV. I think he gets it done. What's the under here? Under 1.5 plus 145. I think that's live. I do think he gets it done early. I think he clips him and catches Jan slipping. I don't think this is going to be the style and the pace that Jan is so used to fighting. I think Bogdan is really going to close distance fast and find that shot. So I'm going with GUSKOV. What's the round 1 KO? GUSKOV. Round 1 plus 450. Round 1 KO plus 550. So really no difference there. But yeah, I'm going GUSKOV. KO round 1, round 2. Let's get to the next fight. We got Henry Triple C CEJUDO taking on Peyton Talbott. Going with Talbott. I think Talbott is live for a finish, honestly. I think CEJUDO, with his karate style, he likes to lunge in. I think he's going to be getting caught with a lot of knees and a lot of elbows. I went back and watched a couple of Peyton Talbott fights. He dictates range really well, but even when you crash into him, he definitely makes you pay. Look at the Cameron Simon fight. When Simon was closing distance, he was making him pay with nasty knees to the body, nasty elbows over the top. I think he's going to rinse and repeat that type of performance here. I know these two have a little bit of respect for each other, but I'm leaning on Talbott trying to cement himself as a top 10 bantamweight and putting on a finish against Henry CEJUDO in his retirement fight, might I add, definitely will, do that for you. I think Peyton Talbott should knock out Henry CEJUDO. I think it should come fairly easily as well. I don't think CEJUDO striking. I've never been a fan. I don't think it's going to be able to hold up in modern day, the modern day strikers of today. I think Talbott should be able to pick them apart, should be able to, put a beating on Henry CEJUDO and force him to ball up, honestly. So I'm going Peyton Talbott via KO, via knockout. Let's get to the scales. We got Peyton Talbott up first. Look pretty good. Staring off into space is what it is. But yeah, dude looks pretty good. Looks ready. Looks like he's, I don't know. Looks pretty good. That's the most I can say, honestly. Here's Henry CEJUDO. I will say watching it live did look like he struggled on this weight cut. It is his last weight cut, probably ever. Hopefully, I will say, Henry CEJUDO, he is, the king of cringe. I know he's talking about passing it on to Peyton Talbott, but I really hope if this fight ends up being close or somehow Henry wins, I hope he doesn't get on the mic and, I'm not retiring, because I'm really sick of this Henry CEJUDO gimmick bullshit, bro. I really want him to get starched. I really want him to retire officially, not think about coming back ever again. And I really just want to see Henry CEJUDO put out again, honestly. So I'm going Peyton Talbott inside the distance. I think knockout makes the most sense. And he really should be able to knock Henry CEJUDO out. The height advantage, I think the striking disparity is pretty significant too. And I got to favor Peyton Talbott having the power over him as well. Peyton sitting at minus 255, plus 215 for Henry. Over 1.5 is minus 525. I don't know, man. Peyton Talbott is always on that front foot. Granted, Raoni had the success that he had, but Raoni is a better MMA wrestler than Henry CEJUDO, and Henry doesn't really use his wrestling in his fights recently either. So I wouldn't be shocked if we go under. Talbot KO plus 210. Talbot inside the distance plus 195. Makes the most sense to me, but I am leaning on the KO. What's CEJUDO most takedowns? Minus 800. Talbot most takedowns. I wouldn't be surprised. CEJUDO has been taken down before, and I can see Talbot using some trips here plus 500. So that wouldn't be a crazy bet to me either. But like I said, I'm just leaning on Talbot to win via knockout. Let's get to the next fight. We got the featured fight of the night. Brandon Moreno taking on Tatsuda Taira. I'm going with Tatsuda, bro. I'm going with Tatsuda Taira to win. I think this is the moment that he's been waiting for. I know he lost to Brandon Royval. I like that he hit that speed bump when he did, and I think he's looked better since then. And I think he's going to be able to inflict all of the knowledge that he learned from that fight in Brandon Royval and be able to get over Brandon Moreno. I think if you go back and look at Moreno's, last 10 fights, he's been taken down in 9 of them. He can be controlled on the mat. He is a really good scrambler, but Tatsuda Taira, when he gets you down, it's hard for people to really get back up. I'm even looking back in the Royval fight where Royval, he did break him in that second or third round. I can't remember exactly which round, but when he was able to flip the script and get Royval down, he wasn't able to get back up for the remainder of that round. I think Taira has really good control, really good back takes. I think he's definitely the better grappler out of the two. His striking has been coming along pretty well too. Really good straight shots. Moreno, like I said before, a lot of his boxing combinations are like slapping shots, and they're not really the most powerful punches. I know he was able to stop Figgy, and he stopped, Kai Kara France to the body. But I think Tatsuda Taira is a guy who's he's better on the feet than both of them, I would say, at this point. I think he's faster than both of them, and I think he's just a little bit more cleaner than both of those fellas. I'm leaning Tatsuda Taira all day. I think it's not going to be as close as I anticipated it to be, because I just think Tatsuda Taira will be able to control Brandon Moreno for majority of this fight. All he needs is really 2 to 3 takedowns with some really solid control, and I think he's going to be able to run away with this fight. So give me Tatsuda Taira to win via decision. Wouldn't be shocked if it's a split, but I do think Taira will be the winner at the end of the day. Let's get to the scale. Here's Tatsuda, made weight 126. Made weight, no issues. Looks really good on the scale too. Here is Brandon Moreno. Moreno, he's pretty professional, man. Former champion. I think he's had his run. He's had his day. I just think the new age is coming, and I think Tatsuda Taira is a part of that. Here's the face-off. I like the height advantage for Tatsuda. I think he looks better physically than Brandon Moreno as well. I think Taira's, I think his speed is going to be able to show itself here too. I got to go with Tatsuda Taira. I think he's the better fighter at this point in their careers. I like the young guys surging up. I think they're put in this position on this pay-per-view together for a reason, and I'm going to lean on the youth guys to get it done. Tatsuda Taira sitting at -124, +104 for Brandon Moreno. Taira via decision makes the most sense to me, so over 2.5, -325, yes. Taira via decision, +135. That's what I'm leaning on. If he's able to get the submission, +550. Has Brandon Moreno ever been submitted? Moreno, no, never been submitted, never been finished either. Has been dropped. Has been put in submission attempts, but dude's pretty scrambly. He's a scrapper, man. I'm going to lean Tatsuda Taira to win via decision. Like I said, could be close, but all he really needs is 2 to 3 takedowns and some solid control. And I think he will be able to get that on Brandon Moreno. So give me Tatsuda Taira. Co-main event of the evening. This is one that I've been waiting for. Alexandre the Cannibal Pantoja taking on Joshua the Fearless Van. I am picking Joshua Van. I like the nickname because I think it makes a lot of sense in this fight. Joshua Van is a guy who I have not seen back up to anybody other than Charles Johnson when he got knocked out. He's in your face. He's on the pressure. He's throwing a lot of combinations. He's making a lot of reads, and he builds as the fight continues to go on. Pantoja on the other side, yes, he's relentless with his pressure. Yes, he's relentless with the takedowns. Yes, he's relentless with the striking, but I will say he's not as clean in the striking as Joshua Van. I think he gets really wild and really relies on his chin holding up. And I think if you're relying on your chin holding up against a really accurate counterpuncher in Joshua Van, I think that's going to spell a lot of, it's not going to play out the way that you want it to. Joshua Van, a really good counterpuncher. We've seen him be able to put out a lot of people. We saw him drop Brandon Royval, late in that third round. I think he makes really intelligent reads as the fight continues to progress. And I think as he feels Alexandre Pantoja in the cage, he'll be able to make those reads and make the slight adjustments that he needs to as the fight continues to go on. And that plays into what he was saying earlier in the week where, I don't really have a game plan. I'm just going in there and we're going to fight, because he's going in there. He's going to make his reads as the fight continues to go on, and he'll adjust, what his corner says, what he feels. And I just think that is a pretty solid, accurate representation of what he is going to do. So I'm not thrown off by him saying, I don't really have a game plan. I understand what he's saying now that I'm more, the more that I think about it. I think Joshua Van, I think he could put out Pantoja, man. He's been cracked before. You go back and you look at the Figgy fight, he was cracked in that matchup. He was dropped. I think Joshua Van is a nasty finisher. He doesn't need to knock him out, but I do think he can. And I know that's crazy to say. Pantoja, he's got one of the best chins, da. But a lot of the guys that he's been fighting, it's, one shot, I could put you out with a Kai Kara France. Doesn't really have that much power, in my opinion. Kaya Sakura, very explosive, right? But it's really one shot. Steve Erceg, precise kickboxer, not necessarily one shot, but he can mix it up fairly well. And I think Joshua Van can too. Steve Erceg is the guy who had the most success against Pantoja, but he doesn't really have the boxing that Joshua Van has. Royval, a lot of output, not that accurate with it. And then Brandon Moreno, very close fight, but Pantoja was able to control him. I like how Joshua Van is smaller than Alexandre Pantoja. I think he'll be able to defend the takedowns a lot better, and I think it's going to surprise Pantoja because he's not going to be able to get, the grappling going. So I know Van has been taken down by lesser opponents, but I think his takedown defense is going to hold up here, and I think he's going to be in Pantoja's grill for a majority of the fight, putting him on the back foot, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. So I'm going and new flyweight champion Joshua Van. Here he is on the scale. May weigh no issues, 124.5, looking absolutely locked and ready to go. I'm trusting in the guy. I've been a Joshua Van fan for a while now. I think he's got the goods to be a champion, and I love that he's doing it so young, 24 years old. I think it makes sense right now, and I think he is prepared to be a Pantoja. So give me Joshua Van, man. Here's Pantoja on the scale. Dude is phenomenal. 35 years old. He's a legend for sure, but I just think it's time to pass the torch, and I think Joshua Van is a hell of a opponent for him to be passing the torch to. Here's the face-off. You can see the height advantage for Pantoja. Like I stated, I love that Van is actually shorter. I think he has a lower sense of gravity than Pantoja, and I think he'll be able to defend the takedowns a little better. The one thing that does give me a little bit of worry is when Pantoja finishes his combinations with the kicks. I think Van will be able to make that read pretty fairly well into that second round. But I do think Van is going to get the better of the exchanges out of the two. And I'm going to go Joshua Van, round 2, round 3, knockout. Give me Van, round 2, round 3, knockout. That's what I'm going with. Joshua Van is sitting at plus 185, minus 220 for Pantoja. Not a lot of line movement, but guess what? Van, round 3, knockout plus 2,500. Round 2, knockout plus 2,500. I'm going to put a little sprinkle on both of those. I do think Van is live for inside the distance. I don't think he's going to get submitted, man. I think Van's going to surprise a lot of people. He said he's been working on his cardio. We know his takedown defense is pretty solid. I'm going to trust him here. I'm going Joshua Van to win in dramatic fashion via knockout and crack the cannibal, the guy who has been relentless. He's never been finished. I think Joshua Van is the guy to do it. So, and new in the co-main, and I'm trusting the new age guys to get it done. Let's get to the main event of the evening. If you guys haven't already, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We got the one, the only, hopefully that's what we're going to hear Saturday night, Merab Dvalishvili taking on Petr Yan. The pick has been Merab. There's nothing that I've seen from Petr Yan in his last 3 fights that tell me that he's going to be able to defend the takedowns for Merab. He's been fighting primarily strikers. Nobody has really attempted a takedown on him. I think Song Yadong did, but Song Yadong is not Merab DVALISHVILI. If you would have fought, a Mario Batista, Umar, then that would have gave me a better read onto what Petr Yan can do at this point. But again, it's a Marcus McGee, it's a Figgy fight, and it's a Song Yadong fight. Those don't tell me that he's going to be able to dramatically change the story as to what their fight was. I think Merab's going to rinse and repeat, and I think he's actually going to finish Petr Yan come this time around via submission. So I'm going Merab via submission. Probably round 3, round 4 is what I'm leaning towards. But again, Merab is the decision machine. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a decision either, but Merab is the pick. I am leaning on inside the distance. I am leaning on submission for Merab DVALISHVILI. Let's get to the scales. Here's Petr. Looks pretty good. Dude's always in pretty good shape. Made weight. Championship weight. No issues. Here's Merab. A lot of people were talking about his weight cut, but dude looks good. DC was saying that he does it the old-fashioned way where he cuts off all liquids, I think, or something like that around Wednesday. And, he's just dehydrating himself for 2 days straight. But dude looks good. He made weight. No issues. Merab is a champion, and he's a machine, literally. Here's the face-off. Merab looks pretty solid. Petr talked a little bit of trash, saying that, he's fighting in his hometown. But Merab isn't from Vegas, bro. He's from Georgia. I know he lives in Vegas, but I think he's going to pay for those words. So I'm going Merab submission. Round 3, round 4, like I said. I think him spinning the block again on Sean O'Malley found the submission that time. I think him spinning the block on Petr Yan, he already felt what the guy, what he presents. I think he's going to be able to find the finish here. So I'm going Merab via submission. And plus 850 for Merab sub. Minus 285 for the decision. Round 3 sub is plus 28. Round 4 sub plus 28. Yeah, that's what I'm leaning on. I'll just take the sub line straight. Don't need to chase the round and the prop. But I'm leaning Merab submission. Minus 415 plus 315 on the money line. I got to go with the machine here. So that is what I got for the picks. Let's get to my favorite section, your favorite section, Makai's money making plays, the parlays, which I did have to update because, we did pick flip from Bruno to Marvin Vettori. So ultimately took both of those guys out of any plays that I had. There's really only one, but let's get to it now. Merab Talbot, minus 153, chalky as hell. Over 2.5 in the Moreno versus TAIRA fight. And Iwo, money line, sneaky safe, minus 105. TAIRA and Talbot, plus 136. The new breed. Silva, under 2.5. Malik versus TRÓCOLI, plus 196. Really solid there. Under 1.5. Dawson versus Torres and Nazim SADYKHOV, dog money, plus 267. Under 2.5. Iwo versus Ebo and Joshua Van, plus 290. Really like that play. Torres and Duncan, the ATT split, plus 341. Torres, Talbot, Turner, plus 431. Triple threat. This was the play that we swapped. Originally, it was Bruno, Iwo, Bogdan. Now it's going TAIRA, Iwo, Bogdan, plus 467. Like that one there. Torres knockout. Carini Silva, plus 620. Live dogs. Duncan inside the distance. Turner inside the distance. And Joshua Van, plus 665. Sneaky little degen play. Bogdan knockout, TAIRA decision, and Merab money line, plus 765. Run to the bank with that one. Iwo, Torres, Nazim, and Mansour Abdul, plus 870. Send it. Silva submission. Nazim money line, plus 970. TAIRA sub. GUSKOV money line, plus 1193. Degen, but definitely possible. Merab inside the distance. Torres money line, plus 1300. Savage parlay right there. And then to wrap it all up, Joshua Van, Manuel Torres, Merab, Iwo, Mansour Abdul-Malik, plus 1525 for the red panty night. But I do have one play that I want to cook up for you guys that I was just mentioning. I know I told you I wanted to do Karini to win her fight by sub, and I'm telling you, I like Merab by sub. So let's see what the parlay for Merab and Karini via submission is. Merab sub plus 900. Karini sub plus 5,500. I'm going to be playing that, so you can add that to the parlays as well. Plus 5,500 Merab and Karini Silva by submission. I think that's degen as fuck, but I definitely think it's possible. Especially if you're on the side as long with me, as long if you're if you're believing in Merab to finish like he says that he's going to with me, then I'm leaning on Merab to do it via submission. There we go. There's a mouthful, but you get what I was trying to say. But that is what I got for the picks. That is what I got for the parlays. UFC 323, the last pay-per-view ever, if we don't go back to the pay-per-view model, but the last pay-per-view of the year. Definitely a banger card. On paper, I give it about an 8.5 out of 10. I'm super excited for these fights. Can't wait to recap the entire fight card for you guys. So make sure you turn on your post notifications. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to the channel. And I will see you guys as soon as the card is completed. Stay tuned for the socials as well. I will be posting reactions to something new that I'm trying out. So check out the TikTok, check out the X, Twitter, if you guys follow me there as well. And I will see you guys on the next one. Peace out.